tonight.
I don't
No
know
mayor
who turned
tonight.
the
I
song.
got
Did you?
record on that thing.
You did it.
We did?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe, now what would we do without Matt?
Mike
Okay.
must have started it.
All right, we're gonna call the meeting to order, and, we'll start out with, citizens' comments on matters within the board's jurisdiction. We have a maximum of 3 minutes per individual, so do we have any citizen comments out there?
Do you wanna do roll call?
Oh, yeah, oh, thank you.
Sorry.
I'm jumping ahead. I'm hungry, I'm trying to get out of here quickly.
Mullendorf.
Let's have a roll call.
Mullendorf.
I am here, I think.
Cornfield, here. Graham.
Here,
Gunn.
she's here.
Fordall.
Here.
Thorson.
Here.
Tupin. Tupin? Tupin?
Not yet. Sorry.
Nope.
She might.
But we have a quorum. Okay, so now, we can move on to citizens' comments on matters within
I heard
the
somebody
board's
answer it first.
jurisdiction.
I don't have a citizen comment, I
Okay.
could, but whoever limbed up the trees in front of the IGA, thank you. But
I'm
I
not
saw,
sure if that was us or not.
I saw
Might be,
someone doing
might
it.
have been Willie.
Take credit for
I
it.
don't think it was Willie, maybe it was.
Probably
Anyway,
Willie.
I was just so pleased to see that, 'cause I tried parking under those trees once and, yeah, not a good thing.
You mean between the parking lot and the depot, the Otter
Yeah.
Guild? Oh,
Yeah,
nice,
they've
yeah.
all been limbed up
We're gonna
and,
go limb the trees in Lions Park too, just bring them up so that when there's events, you can see.
Yeah,
See through the park.
yeah.
Branches are a little too low, just bring them up.
Nice.
yeah, well, there's not a lot of shade, you know, in front of, around the IGA, and people tried parking under those trees and, you know, they were breaking branches and scratching cars, and anyway, thank you, whoever did that.
Okay, good. Okay, well, let's move on if there's no other. You do have, I'm sorry.
I have a couple of comments. The first is to remind you all that on the 16th of December, there will be a public meeting regarding the trail down Brewery Hill. That's going to be an important meeting, and I'm sure that all of us would love to get people off the street, who walk up and down that hill in all seasons. The second is that I have received a request to mention to you the sign at the kiosk on the airport trail. The sign is pretty shabby and could use either a new sign or a refurbished, probably a new sign. And just to make a request of the Parks Board to approve a new sign.
Yep, that's the one right at the top.
Is that the one at the
I think-
kiosk where?
Yeah,
Where
right
the
at the
pavilion,
kiosk,
yeah,
yeah.
USDA was talking about doing something.
Yeah.
It's
I
really
think
cool,
it's on the list.
I thought so.
What is the
Thank
kiosk?
you, thank you.
The kiosk is a little shelter.
It's
Oh.
still read it,
Oh,
but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
gazebo,
Gazebo.
and gotten kind of
It's pretty sad.
wrinkled.
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
We could
Welcome.
iron it out.
all right.
Crank it
No
on.
other comments, we'll move on to, our first,
Anyone
discussion.
online have comments?
Oh,
I don't know. Teresa?
Teresa online?
Yeah. Teresa and Ellen.
She's on the agenda, so maybe.
No comments for me. None for me, thank
Okay.
you.
Alan, are you online?
She is.
I am, yeah, no comments, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alan. All right. There being no more comments from the public, we'll move on to discussion items. And the first one is an update regarding facilitating a meeting to address. Oh, gee, boy, I'm not doing well today.
You are hungry.
I am hungry, starving, I haven't had much to eat today. So we're gonna go back, again, I apologize for this, we're gonna go back to approval of the consent agenda and our meeting minutes of November 2024.
I make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from November 6th.
Okay, Rod?
I'd like to make a motion to amend tonight's discussion items. I recall late last night, the people with the tennis courts and the pickleballers have formed a committee. Mike's probably aware of it. And they're ready to start going. I think they're gonna try to follow something similar to what the pool folks did.
I know they were talking about
Yeah.
trying to do a major fundraiser to,
Yeah.
we discussed that it would be, something north of 250,000 to do it, probably closer to 4.
Yeah, I'm thinking you're closer to the right number
That's what we spent in Shoto to redo our tennis courts
with
before.
4.
Well, so we're not in the discussion period yet at this point.
Yeah.
We have a motion to amend the,
You want to put it on as an item?
as an
Yep,
item, under
as an
discussion
item,
items.
right.
Thanks for the heads up, because they called me and want to meet with me tomorrow.
Oh.
And I had no idea what that was gonna be.
Oh.
Let me guess who called
So
you.
we need,
Section?
we need
On
to,
your funder list.
we need to take action on his motion to amend it.
Yeah.
Lindsay has it.
So we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I would suggest that we insert it, between items 3 and 4 in case there doesn't look like there's anybody here from, that proposed committee, but, we can do that discussion after item 3, after Al's item. If that works for everybody.
Yep, that sounds fine.
Okay? All right, I'm gonna try to stay on the agenda, on the schedule here for the rest of the evening. The next discussion item is an update regarding facilitating a meeting to address county building lighting issues with the Whistler Observatory. And I have myself and Chelsea as kind of the presenters or the people that lead the discussion on this. I'll kick it off. Chelsea, you can interject where you want to
Sounds great.
at any point. Chelsea and I got together back on the 25th of November to discuss plans or a strategy for trying to facilitate a meeting between the observatory folks and the county fairgrounds regarding the lights on the buildings that seem to be interfering with the dark sky opportunities out at the observatory. As you remember, I think at the last meeting we talked about, or several meetings ago, we talked about the idea of having this body, this board, act as a facilitator for this type of meeting. So we kind of went through that. Chelsea and I spent some time trying to talk about who the stakeholders were that were primarily impacted by this issue. We talked about what might be some goals and really came up with 2 really simple goals of, I think, of equal importance.
Yeah.
The first goal is to ensure the safety and the security of the county facilities up at that location. And then again, an equal goal would be to try to maintain and ensure some dark sky opportunities for the observatory. So we didn't really talk about so much in terms of solutions to the problem. We just talked about how can we facilitate this meeting, who are the actors that we need to get together. After that, I had separate meetings on December, let's see.
It'd be too long, though.
No, we're too long. I had a meeting on December 2nd with Commissioner Bill Bullock, and he and I talked for a quite a lengthy period of time about what really is a problem up there. What are some issues that we can kick around? How feasible is it to have a meeting, get some of the people from the county commissioners and the fairgrounds involved? And he agreed that having a meeting would be a good idea. And then I met the following day on December 3rd with Teresa Whistler, and we had, similar conversation. Talked about who should be at the meeting, when we should have the meeting. We kind of all agreed that we should have this meeting as soon as possible, not let this thing kind of linger. My hope is that we could have the meeting maybe before Christmas, we could in the next couple of weeks. The date, of course, and the location yet to be determined. My thought would be that if it's acceptable to the board, maybe Chelsea and I would kind of run the meeting and be sort of the representatives from this body. And then whatever kind of results come out from that meeting that we would report back to the Parks Board, get their advice, and and then possibly as to be determined, it would go then to the city council and to the county commissioners as well for implementing some type of solution. That's really all the details we have at this time. Chelsea, you got anything you'd like to add?
No, basically, again, just determining what those objectives were and who the stakeholders are, I think was a big portion of our discussion. And again, just getting those folks together in the same room and being able to just address that directly and figure out what those solutions might look like. So that's really it, is just trying to stay on track specifically.
So were, homeowners in Remington Ranch, or were they one of the?
They were identified as.
Yeah.
Right.
So the stakeholders that we identified was the Whistler Observatory coordinators and users, county commissioners and public works for the county up there, rodeo association, the airport board, police department or the sheriff's department, so they can kind of identify some of the security issues. City of Red Lodge, Parks Board, and City Council kind of in conjunction. And then with the other stakeholders, essentially getting letters of support from the Remington Ranch, anybody who feels strongly in that direction as well. So that was kind of the folks that we identified. We really just want to get some of the key players in the room who can actually move forward with making some of those changes, and what kind of opportunities are there, so.
Okay.
Do you guys need any help with any of the stakeholder groups? Like, I've had a couple of people from Remington Ranch ask me about it.
Sure.
Just knowing that I'm on Parks Board, like, is there anything that I can do to help, like, get signatures or something?
Yeah, that would
or-
be great, yeah.
Okay, and is there anything specific, like, could a letter with then certain signatures?
Yeah, I think we talked about,
We used to talk specifically about getting the HOA
Oh,
board
yeah,
involved.
okay.
So then that way it can kind of come from a more formal body
Yeah.
and be, instead of getting hundreds of letters or whatever, it
Yeah.
could be
We're
one.
tracking down a bunch of signatures.
Yeah,
Okay.
it can just be, hey, from the association, this is our concern, so.
Okay.
you know, like all, meetings, and particularly when you're talking about problem-solving issue type meetings, we'd like to keep the numbers as small as possible, but at the same time, we want to be inclusive. And I guess it'd be a little bit of a difficult balancing act, but we want to keep the group a little bit manageable, not unwieldy, you know.
Yeah. There's several HOAs in Remington, so you'd probably be looking at the one that's on that east side,
This Grandview.
Grand. I
Metal-
don't know the name, but,
Metal Circle,
Yeah, but, so,
Yeah,
yeah, there's a
Meadow
few of
Circle
those
is-
different associations, all their contact info is available on their website as
Okay.
well, which is super helpful. And again, I think the first, like, this initial meeting will really just be identifying what the objectives are and seeing if there's some sort of, what the next steps will be from that. So, and that might be, if county's not on board, then we're, you know, discussing, talking to HOAs and getting those letters of support. And really, before reaching out to these folks about the issue, trying to have a solution on the horizon that we can bring to them too.
Who actually uses those buildings? I mean, that are, I guess, maybe closest to
It's the fair, my understanding is the fairgrounds,
Fairgrounds?
yeah.
And is that, how
I
is
think
that?
it's also the county
County.
road department.
Yeah,
Pardon me?
County road department keeps their sand
Okay.
up there too, that's a new building they built, the sand shed.
so there's a couple of different users for that space, but specifically rodeo fairgrounds. And that's part of the reason we do want the rodeo board involved as well.
Right.
And the other item we talked about too is there's probably a need to do an inventory of how many lights there are and what lights are really causing an issue. Some lights, you know, maybe on one side of the building that may not be causing a problem for the observatory and may not need to be addressed.
But it's not just the observatory, I think it's pretty widespread pollution, light pollution.
Any questions or suggestions from the group before we move on?
Thanks for taking that on.
Well, we'll find out.
Yeah.
Don't thank me yet.
And one thing to keep in mind is from a Parks Board perspective, I know that the light pollution is a larger issue than just the city, but in the Parks Board, this is about protecting our parks. Like, and again, the added benefit of being able to protect our neighbors is great. Right. But that is one thing that kind of keep in that perspective, and just, that is where I'm coming from, is, okay, this is what's happening for our city and our city assets. And again, hopefully we can come up with something that helps everybody, but,
Yeah, thank you.
No other questions, we'll move on. Okay, the next item, item 3 is discussion with possible action regarding transferring pool advisory responsibilities from the Pool Advisory Committee to the Parks, Trees, and Recreation Board. And we have Al Bloomer and Mike Maples here, and they're going to talk a little bit about the background of the Pool Advisory Committee and how they got started and their accomplishments so far and where they're at today, and why it makes sense to transfer it to our board.
You all got a copy of our October report, I hope?
Well, I emailed one today to everybody. I realized it about, I don't know, later this afternoon that it didn't come with the packet that was sent out. So I hope everybody's had an opportunity to at least kind of skim through the report and the budget.
Yeah, again, I'm Al Bloomer, and I was the chairman of the pool committee and co-chairman of the advisory committee. We work closely with Public Works and the city council and to get this project done. It started out, it's been about an 8-year project if you want to look at it, but if you read the report, we had a pool here in the city back in 1926. It was an indoor pool put on Grant Avenue. The outdoor pool was built in 1983, and in about 2017, it was in such disrepair, losing about 9,000 gallons of water a day, and the city shut it down. And it was actually closed in 2019 and 2020. There was a citizens group started about 2016 that was looking at what we had to do to improve the pool, repair the pool, move the pool. So that started in 2016, and some work was done, community surveys, meetings, and so forth, but it really didn't get started and moving until about 2020. 2020, the city had hired Interstate Engineering to do a facility study, and that's when they came up with information that said this existing pool was beyond repair. And so about 2020, the city decided that they were going to fix the pool, which was just a hole in the ground. And because of the work that this community group had done prior to that, Bill Larson brought me in and a couple other people and said, we want to form a pool committee here to just kind of see if we can raise some money and review the design of the pool. Because the original plan was just to put a hole in the ground and the deck. There was nothing on the pool house, nothing about splash decks, water slides, any of that. And we determined pretty quickly that to have a pool that the city could be proud of and that would meet the city's needs, as we did a survey, that we definitely needed to do some work on the pool house. The small kiddie pond wasn't all that popular, and the suggestion was a splash deck. There was some certainly interest in a very exotic, very expensive water slide. We went cheaper than that, and so forth. Shade pergolas and so forth, and that was our role as the pool committee. The project was about a $3.3 million project, and the pool committee raised 1.7. And the city did the rest through a bond, which they pay off each year. Once the pool was completed, and then Mike came in as the public works director, we felt like, or the mayor felt like, that our committee could still be of service and acting as an intermediary between the public and the public works, because public works functioned primarily at that time was just the mechanics of the pool. The pool, although it is a dedicated park, fell under public works because of all the mechanics involved. It just made sense to be there. So it was about 2022 23, that we almost completed the pool. And so the pool committee morphed into an advisory committee, and there was a resolution for that. And the role of that committee was strictly to be an interface between the public and the public works, to offer suggestions, ideas, help with volunteerism whenever they could. And that's about what our role was. And we had suggestions about, you know, putting in hooks and shade pergolas and tables and things like that. Those monies came out of the balance of the money that we'd raised for the pool committee. Just recently now, we had to replace the boiler and the scrubber. And so what was left in our pool committee budget, we gave to the city to help defray those costs. So now the pool committee has no money. It's all city.
Good bankrupt.
But we would meet fairly regularly with Mike and the pool manager, just to see how things were going, how we could help, and also be a resource. There's a fair amount of experience on our committee. We've lived with this thing for almost 8 years. And that was our role. And now we have Mike, who's just been wonderful in this project, and then we had a pool manager. And so they were running the pool, and all we were was just kind of sitting out there. Somebody would not go to Mike with an issue, they would know they would come to us. They knew who we were, so I'd get a phone call and say, well, you know.
Well, a lot of the members are pretty heavily invested.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, hey, you know, we need to do a little better job of cleaning the locker rooms. Or gee, if the locker rooms had some hooks for towels, that'd be a good idea. And we would share that with the city.
Yeah, I think when you guys were talking about
Yeah.
disbanding the board,
Yeah.
advisory board, you know, Lindsay especially was,
Yeah,
she wanted to have her finger in the soup.
Yeah,
which is good, and that's why I suggested we put it on the parks board, so that she'd still, or people would still have a conduit to provide input and.
Well, Mike touches on a point here, and part of my job as the chairman was to try to maintain roles. And we did have some pool committee members that felt like they were running the damn pool.
Yeah, that always happens.
And they're not.
Yeah.
The pool is run by the city.
Yeah.
And so I suggested to the mayor, I said, look, it's a dedicated park. We don't need an advisory board. The Parks Board can fill that role. And the role that you would fill would be a relationship between you and the pool manager and Public Works. But I think there's a role there for you, you know, go over there and check things out, make sure things are going well, because Mike's job description is such that, you know.
Pretty broad.
Yeah, and so you're there as a resource, and one of the things we came up with, I hope they do, and you might follow up with, is we put together a budget. The city gave us a budget, but we kind of broke it out into itemized that you have, where money's going, to make sure monies are going where they need to be. The other thing is, our experience with the pool over the last couple of years is, the pool manager's role is pretty extensive. She has to take care of the lifeguards and the scheduling and all the stuff that goes on the deck.
And classes.
And classes and,
Big
but
job.
there's a lot of stuff that goes inside the pool house, which is checking people in, keeping records, making sure it's clean and all that. So in the thing that I sent you was a recommended organization chart that separated basically inside pool house duties from that of the pool head lifeguard. So she would take care of doing the computer stuff, checking people in, making sure the pool's clean, answering those types of questions. Because Aubrey, and I would go over there almost every other day just to check with her to see how she was doing, and she got underwater pretty quick, you know. 'cause one of her biggest jobs is scheduling lifeguards, keeping them there, you know, making sure they show up and all that stuff. But then there's a lot of stuff that goes on to make that a successful operation that's not water related. And the other part of that is that information, as I did this report, on how many lessons did we give? What were the special projects that we did? How many people came? We had over 30% of our users were out of town users, which is interesting in terms of the infrastructure. And that information helps you plan the following year. And we had computer issues and software issues and all that kind of stuff.
Drama issues.
And then,
Drama issues?
yeah, and so,
Teenagers.
those are things that if they're on your agenda during the pool operation months, just to, hey, Mike, do you need any help here? Or, hey, what can we do here? Or how's it going? Or maybe have Aubrey give you a report on what's going on, what she needs, how she needs it, all those types of things, you know. But that's something that you need to work out that the advisory committee did. But I don't think you need a Parks Board Advisory Committee and Mike, and, you know, to me, it's the Parks Board. And that was our recommendation in our letter.
So Al,
Conduit.
Yeah.
so Al, just a couple questions. So the city council enacted a resolution creating the pool advisory committee.
Yeah, we had a resolution that created the pool committee, and then that morphed it in resolution into the advisory
Right.
committee, and then there's a resolution that disbanded
Okay,
the advisory committee, and in that, it mentions the Parks Board.
okay, that was a question I had. That escaped me. So they actually did do a resolution.
There's a resolution that expanded our committee,
Disbanding the committee.
and whether the Parks Board was specifically mentioned in that, Chelsea, I'm not sure, but that was the intent.
Yes,
I think
it was.
yeah.
Okay,
Specifically that,
I have a copy of it.
okay, good.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have a copy of that.
It's a dedicated park,
Yeah, yeah, no, I understand. I
And-
just wanted to make,
but if there's some
Well, yeah.
technology there, like you need a certified pool operator that handles all the chemicals and stuff. That's a Mike's employee.
So here's a kind of question, maybe more for, you know, to, ascertain your opinion. We're gonna have probably vacancies on our Parks Board, you know, if people
Yes.
go off the board. Would it make sense, and do you think there's any interest from anybody that's that was formerly on that committee
I think
to,
that'd be great.
And my suggestion would be Anita Osborne.
okay,
That would be my first suggestion.
okay,
And again, the thing we need to be careful about is remembering, we don't run the pool.
right,
And so if you get some people that are trying to step over that line,
yeah,
Yeah,
then it gets a little,
yeah.
it's messier than it should be, let me put it that way.
It's an advisory,
It's not advisory,
Yeah.
not an
Yeah.
operations.
Yeah.
to head off any problems that we did occur last summer.
Yeah,
If anybody on the advisory board has anything to advise about the pool, they go to me, not the pool manager.
right. Now,
And the other part is, that, and I said this to Mike, you know, we have an investment in this thing emotionally and financially, but Mike can call me anytime, or he can call Anita, or he can call Judith, or whatever, if he searches out, but I still think there ought to be kind of a place that the public knows
sure,
that if they have an issue,
just like any other
that
park.
maybe they ought to go to the Parks Board and not be buzzing at him or the pool manager so much.
The pool manager is a seasonal position.
Yes.
You don't wanna just join the Parks Board, do you, Al?
Hmm?
You can just join the Parks Board and go on the pool.
He and his wife have done their time.
I did my time on the Parks Board.
And Carol
When you had no money.
And Carol did too.
Yeah.
He was quickly to give up the name of another person.
Yeah, I bet he was.
Well, and
Did you say you outlined somewhere, Al, the responsibilities, like,
It's a very good chart.
In this chart in here,
those are pool responsibilities
Yeah.
in his
Yeah.
flow
and
chart.
I put in some pictures, and I put in some budgets, and
At the end.
It's
Roger,
pretty-
you did send that.
Did I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Today.
Or no, I
Today.
mean, you sent it a while ago too.
When we were putting together the
You
agenda?
sent it a month ago.
Okay.
But anyway, it's,
Maybe one day.
Mike and his staff have just been terrific, but I mean, what we're just trying to do is relieve whatever pressure we can
Yes.
that he allows us to relieve, and not go on and say, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
And so you have to understand your role, and I'm being candid here, I had a couple people on our committee that didn't fully understand their role, and part of my job was trying to
Reel them in, huh? Pull them back?
There was a period of time when Aubrey had too many chiefs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we know that it's not our job to run the pool either. It's to, like you said, to be a place of hearing, involvement. If
Just be a
we had a
resource.
person on the board that had that experience from your committee, that would be great. So if Anita joined.
As long as they understand their role, and that's the thing you need to be careful of.
Yeah, and I think that in this facility, like, in this atmosphere, I think it's pretty clear, like, we take public input, provide that input, and
Yeah.
give that to Mike so he can,
I mean, some of the things
Address
you're
it.
gonna get next year are gonna be, should we have another shade purple? You might, the question I've gotten several times is, why don't we have a bubble over the top so we can run it in the winter? Well, the answer to that is, we investigated that, and not counting the bond,
Mm-hmm.
which is $90,000.
Mm-hmm.
To run the pool for the 3 months, plus or minus we do now, runs about $75,000.
Right.
If you put a cover on it and heat it and run it through the winter, it goes about $250.
Yeah,
And the city just can't.
no.
And if we have an income
It's not warm.
of about our target was to break even, because the pools probably never be profitable.
Right.
Last year, it was $70,000 and we made about 50. So the city, not counting the bond, had to come up with 20 out of the resort tax. And so what we're trying to do is get that level. Another thing you'll get, that we get constantly, is why aren't there concessions there?
Yes, we're not.
Well, there's several reasons for that. Management,
Mhm.
responsibilities, liabilities, space,
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff, plus cleaning up the mess,
Yep.
you know, so those,
he doesn't need hot dogs in the pool.
you know, those types of things that you can hopefully address.
Okay, good. Mike, you have anything you want to add?
Nope.
Any questions for either Al or Mike?
What would you like to see the Parks Board do tonight?
I think just be a conduit, so like, I mean, like when we had that meeting and talked about disbanding, I think the whole committee was pretty much like, yeah, we're done, we did our job, except for one member, and she has ownership in the pool.
Well, she does.
Put a lot of work into it, and I want a place for her to be able to still have that role, and I feel like this is the place, so.
So do we need a motion or
Well,
something?
I'm thinking we probably don't even need a motion, because it's already been decided by the city
It's a park.
council.
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
it's
it's already
gonna be
done.
in
Now,
there.
whether you want to add a
Under our
member
purview.
that's specific to the pool or not, that's entirely up to you.
I think that would be a good
but-
idea.
You know, I would just, you know where the resources are if you need them.
Yeah, I don't know if we need to add, I mean, there's a couple of,
I think just
I don't-
function as a conduit for the, for
Yep.
individuals who have input they want to bring to make the pool a better place.
I think we encourage somebody from the advisory committee to apply for an open position
Yep,
with
the next vacancy.
the next vacancy, if the board encourage them to do that.
Or, yeah,
I don't-
meeting
Yeah,
during the summer,
Yeah.
especially during the summer.
Well, Al, I would like to say, on behalf of all of us, that you are amazing.
Yeah.
You came, I mean, I don't know that anybody knows this, or a lot of people know it, but he was almost single-handedly also responsible for getting Centennial Ice Arena in Billings done years ago, and, for you to come out of your retirement volunteerism and take on another huge project, I mean, hats off to you. Thank you. You're amazing.
It was really a team effort. We had I listed the committee members in there, and
Yep.
it was a diverse committee with lots of different experiences, and we worked together well, but everybody kind of stayed in their lanes. It was when we went to advisory that,
No pun intended.
yeah,
Stay in your lane.
yeah.
Well, and underwater, you got that one in too.
Someone else caught it.
Thank you.
Two other comments. One is that the report is an excellent report.
Yeah.
And thank you
Yeah.
for putting that together. It's a great summary. And the other thing that really struck me in that report is that 1,200 people
Yeah.
donated to
Yeah.
that
We,
pool. Now, this
excess of 1,200 individuals.
is a town of, what, 2,300 people and 1,200 people. I know,
What's amazing is almost 25% of our funds came from outside of Bourbon County.
And that's so cool too.
yeah, very good. Well, thanks,
That
everybody.
was interesting.
Yes, it is.
All right, so thanks for your time. If there's no other questions, we'll move on. And
Well, you know where I am if you need me.
Okay.
Thanks,
Got your
Al.
number.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next topic, and this will be,
Oh, and Rod, you were on the original committee.
yeah, Rod was on the committee
Rod
as
was
well.
on the
I
committee.
was.
Yeah, thank you, Rod.
Okay.
So speaking of Rod being on committees, the next item is gonna be a discussion. I just wrote down discussion regarding the formation of a tennis court improvement committee. Does that sound sufficient?
Yeah,
And Rod, I'll turn it over to you at
yeah.
this
We
point.
added this for you guys.
Right.
It just showed up because I had a phone call last night about 8:30, 9 o'clock, from the tennis and pickleball people. And they have formed a committee similar to what the pool did, and they're wondering how to proceed. So I thought it should be up for discussion tonight, so they can just move
They have
forward.
a very good model.
Yeah,
It sounds like they're meeting with Al.
With
Yeah, that's how they
I mean,
proceed,
they
meet
got
with Al.
They've got the council behind it.
And they already called Al, it sounds like.
So I
So-
think that would be the right model.
and so Rod, you may want to maybe even forward that pool committee report that Al put together to those folks. so
To
they-
those people.
so they have
And
some
a couple
background.
of those people on that committee were also on the pool committee.
Okay,
Yeah.
Good.
A couple of names that I was told last night. Barb Beck is the person that called me. She mentioned Jeff, who did all that repair work over there, was
Mhm.
probably one of them. Lindsay Hoffman and, Martha Brown.
Oh,
I think there was one more.
that's a good group.
So should we maybe have them come and lay out their objectives?
come to the next meeting, do that? That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering,
That's
it sounded
future
like,
item.
listening to Al, that the council had to have a council resolution. And I'm thinking about you as the parks person.
Mhm.
Maybe you might want to spearhead that.
Yeah, I'll take a look and see what the pool resolution looks like, kind of copy that, little copy paste.
Tennis courts, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And, no, I don't think we'll have any issue getting that through at council, so, we'll have to, it'll be a couple weeks or a couple sessions before we can actually do it, just because of how our format works, but
Yeah.
Is it okay if I pass your information on to Barb?
absolutely.
Present their.
You're gonna have to come up with some new puns.
I know, something. I don't know much about football. We'll get there.
We'll get that, Bob.
Yeah, if you guys can come up with some puns for me, that'd be great.
Mike, at what point do you want to jump in on that whole process?
You know, when they come and present what they wanna do here.
Okay, all right. I'll get a hold of Barb and, maybe Lindsay and Martha.
Perfect.
And get them in touch with you all.
And I think all of them have my phone numbers, or maybe Barb, but.
You've heard from
Madeline, is there anything in that chat that we need to address? Probably just somebody,
From Teresa. Yeah, I could, okay, you can see it there.
Stacy, oh,
Tracy
Can
Timmons
you
from the
read that?
foundation.
Can you read that now?
Thanks for the updates and actions. I'm looking forward to finding a solution for all impacted. I'll step off for now and look for Roger's meeting invite. By the way, I talked with Tracy Timmons, and she's happy to have the meeting there, neutral territory, and attendance of their program director, should the question of funds, grants, and such come up. They'd be happy to help with grant applications if that's where we believe we're headed.
Okay.
Thanks, Teresa, if you're still there.
Okay, all right. Are we ready to move on? Okay. We're up to, update 2025 Arbor Day project. Mike, do you have anything to?
Wait, you skipped one. Number 4.
Oh, yes, right. All right, discussion and possible action regarding rescheduling the January 1st, 2025 Parks, Trees, and Recreation Board meeting. As you know, that meeting is scheduled for January 1st. I imagine you all have other things you'd rather do on January 1st rather than attend a Parks Board meeting. I took a look at the city's schedule of meetings for January, and unfortunately, when I got on the city's website and pulled up January, it was blank except for the court dates. Yeah, there was nothing. Our meeting wasn't even on there. But I went back and I looked at some of the other standing committees and advisory boards, and to kind of get an idea of when they traditionally have their meetings, and to find out where we might have a hole in the schedule. And it really looked like that if we're going to schedule another meeting, Thursdays would be the best night to do it. Looks like the dates that would be available would be the 2nd of January, the 9th, the 16th, the 23rd, and the 30th. I would suggest we don't go too late into the month, because we're going to have another meeting, within just a week or so.
I can do the 2nd.
I could do the 2nd.
Second, okay?
Maybe on the 2nd,
Maybe clear-eyed,
Needing more
everybody
to,
cleared
yeah.
eye?
being there.
Okay. All right, Rod, do you have a problem with the 2nd?
Just bump
Shouldn't
it
be a
in
problem. We'll just bump it in forward
And
tonight,
so
huh?
what do we need to do to let,
Maybe.
we just have the city?
I'll get a hold of
Think
Denny
on the
and people
hockey schedule
here.
yet.
And we'll let them know that we're changing that. So why don't we just have a motion that we're going to move our meeting that's regularly scheduled for the first Tuesday, or first Wednesday on the first, to Thursday on the 2nd, same time, same place.
I move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now, get with, people at City Hall tomorrow on that. All right, Mike, anything new on a potential Arbor Day project,
Sure.
with the removal of trees?
I pulled some information out of the 2019 inventory and came up with 75 trees that were labeled as management recommendation was to remove because they were dead, dying, or were a public safety concern. I put those together into a little project. Basically, I broke out the trees that were over 20-inch DBH. Those are kind of
Capabilities. Yeah.
I got an estimate from an arborist to remove them. I got 2 estimates. And then I figured our cost in for removing the 68, and most of them are very small trees. Some are probably gone. They were trees that had been planted and didn't make it. There are some other ones. I put all that together, came up with a project that's roughly remove 75 trees. When talking the funding sources I looked at so far were, there's TNRC Urban Forestry has a Inflation Reduction Act grant, which we actually qualify for as a disadvantaged community. There's no match on that grant. They'll fund up to $50K. Project comes in on the high end of about $30,667. That does include some planting because Basically, in order to score well with all the grants that I'm gonna throw this at, you gotta plant some trees back.
Yeah.
I mean, they do removal projects, but you're gonna score higher if you plant trees. So there's $5,000 in that budget for planting back. The other grant opportunity is a program development grant that TNRC does. That one, only goes up to $20,000, and it does have a match. There's a portion of the $30,000 budget that is would be our match. It would be Willie's labor and
Right.
some, or fuel and incidentals.
In-kind services type of thing.
So we'd be close on that one. The other opportunity, if we have to go that route, and I'm gonna apply for both of these, is when I got the estimate for the tree removal in the $30,000 budget, that's them doing everything. They get rid of them, they grind stumps, gone, we don't touch them. For about $10,000 less, we would do, we did this in Shoto a lot, where we call it chop and drop. They come and get it on the ground, we take care of it, we clean it up. So then that would be, it would get us down to that $20,000 mark, and it would increase our match so that, we could compete for that grant. I haven't looked at the Arbor Day grant for the tree removal yet. I'm going to. I did put in our application for Tree City USA, we have to do every year. That's in for review right now. Once we get that, hopefully, we'll get it, hopefully, in the next week or so. Then on December 18th, DNRC has, that's an annual grant, it's kind of a gimme if we get our Tree City status, which we will. We'll put in for this, and they'll give us $850, which will buy a tree so we can have an Arbor Day event. So we're gonna do that. And that's kind of where I'm at with that. The grant, both those, the Inflation Reduction Grant and the Program Development Grant applications are due January 3rd. I have 80% of them done, so I don't see that as being a problem. And I think that's on track. I am gonna look at, reach out to Arbor Day and see if this project would fit with them in the, I think we'll get the IRA grant, which is a no match, but if we end up having to go with the program development grant, if we pick up a little money from the Arbor Day, it might make it where we can do the full $30,000 project. It might fill that extra 10.
Sure.
We get to call the Arbor Day part a match then, you mean?
With that,
Would the Arbor Day allow us to call some of that a match?
I'm not sure.
Oh,
I got a feeling no.
probably not.
But,
So we'd still have to have
but I don't
city
think
funds.
that our match I don't see that as a problem. You know, even if we have to take a little cash at it, which I don't think we will, we'll be able to do it with labor. We've got Parks Project money, we can take some out of that. And I've got a little map of where the trees are, if you want to look at it, and sure about, but that's around, the red ones are the big trees. And I guess,
How many did you say were manageable by us?
68,
Okay.
Out of the 75.
yeah.
Thanks for using the tree as a
And, I guess while I'm on yakking, the next thing is kind of where we're at with Parks projects. We did a little work in Pride Park this summer, just kind of patching up a rotten bench, and we resealed the concrete in there and stuff. We had a talk with Sherry, can't remember her last name, from the garden club.
Is that Macaulay?
And, those planters are in pretty bad shape.
The wooden planters.
Yeah, they're rotten. So on Friday, I'm meeting with a guy, he's a landscape architect. He's gonna come down and kind of give me a price for what it would cost for them to kind of put together a design and a budget, so that maybe with that, then we can go look for some money, or at least know what we're up against to get something that, you know, is gonna look good there, it's gonna be a little more robust.
And
Something
sustainable.
stone or
Yeah.
concrete,
Resilient,
and some nice benches, and kind of give that a facelift. Just, we might throw a couple, $3,000 at them to put together something, so that we got, a document to go out and try and compete for some grant money for that.
Well, Mike, would the actual work then, that would be done by who?
Don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Who's your landscape architect? Is it
Um,
Steiner?
Gail Steiner from, I met him when we were working on the stormwater stuff up
What
at
was
the
the last-
Yellowstone Club.
what was the last
or
name?
Yellowstone
Kiner?
Sanctuary.
Kiner, okay.
Kiner. He's with, remember the firm?
That's okay. Just wondering if it was Nathan
No, I'm
Steiner.
curious.
Rhymes with Steiner,
Yeah.
but not Steiner.
Oops. Second Nature Architecture.
Okay.
I still haven't forgot about the skate park. We did buy all that sealant, but we didn't get it on this year, so in the spring we will. From a public works standpoint, one of the projects that we want to push forward with in the parks, in the parks is on that east side of the skate park where it just kind of fades into the
Parking lot.
we want to get something established there that looks good, defines the property line, and kind of finishes it off.
Are you talking about
How about pricker bushes?
are you talking about planting, or are you talking about some kind of
I
structure?
think what we're looking at is just going in there, removing some of that sand back, and then, getting those blocks like for, at Red Lodge Bank.
Oh,
Just
like
those big,
native rock?
yeah,
Sandstone
just
type.
stacking those along there and kind of following the contour a little bit, nothing major.
Yeah.
Just something to define a space between the skate park and where people park. And I did talk to that landowner, and he seems willing to work with us on it.
Oh,
So,
Okay. Dennis
The-
Whitmore.
Oh my gosh. I had it and I just lost it. I'm getting a cold. What's the green fake grass? AstroTurf. Does it go all the way to where those rocks? Okay,
stops
so
at
there's
the property
basically-
line,
basically
yeah,
the
okay.
rocks would start there. It's
It's the property line,
It's
isn't
a
it,
complicated
Mike?
situation, because right where the AstroTurf ends is the property line.
yeah,
Right.
So the blocks are gonna be on
on private
Whitmore,
property.
Whitmore's
neighbor's
property.
land.
Yeah.
Because at one time we had talked about tires, like as, Rod's nodding, or nodding his head.
Yeah, they
So it
were
was like
worried
maybe
about
a
rocks being,
Softer,
yeah.
yeah.
Kids running
That
into
was
it.
still a concern.
Tires,
flying off.
Yeah, like a
like a tire wall.
wall,
or-
sort of, yeah. But if there's enough space where it doesn't matter, then maybe.
But
it's
that
not an
doesn't really
issue.
alleviate people, backing up tailgating on the area, does it?
No, but that sand hanging out there is not sustainable.
Yeah.
It's gonna,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
gonna,
it's
gravity's gonna
deteriorate.
get it. We're gonna have a problem there.
I
And
think
the sand
rocks
gets
is a
into
good
the-
idea.
The sand gets
I would
into
be
the,
just a little concerned
park.
about graffiti on those,
Yeah,
on the face
we have
of the
that
rocks,
issue.
but,
That's part of the reason we didn't get it sealed, was to get the spray paint off the
yeah.
thing. So, I mean,
It goes with skate parks, doesn't it?
We had,
it's
part of
a
culture.
concern.
Okay,
It cleans off.
all right.
You've been busy, Mike.
Yeah.
He's always busy.
is there anything we can do to help with any of those grants or?
I think the DNRC grant, both of them are same application, and it's pretty straightforward.
I think the city got
The
that one a
Arbor
couple
Day
years
thing I
ago.
haven't even looked into yet. If it sounds like that, there's potential there. When I talk to, what's her name, if she's like, yeah, that's a good project, you know, then, yeah, and then maybe get Alan or anybody who wants to help with that one, we can definitely push on that one.
Alan?
I think the best, I think right now, I mean, the one that looks the most attractive is, that IRA grant.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the one that includes,
And no match.
$850 for a tree for?
No,
That's a separate.
That's
a-
a
that's
DNRC, like,
That's,
give it to you.
Wasn't Alan the?
You said DNRC.
DNRC,
The
yeah,
program
they're both
improvement.
DNRC, all three are DNRC grants, it's just, they're different ones.
Oh,
The Inflation Reduction Act is
Yeah.
kind of a new pot of money they got, and they gotta get rid of it. The development grants one they always have, and then the big, the 850 one is one they always have, it's a, can't remember what it's called, they didn't write it down, it's like a,
The growth award.
oh, it's a DNRC tree planting grant, is what it's called.
Well, Mike, what I was getting at was, on that point of it right there, if there's if it's enhanced, if any of the grants are enhanced by having some volunteer effort to
Sure,
require
that's
that.
on the Arbor Day for sure.
Yeah, the planting of the tree and having an Arbor Day ceremony would be a good one for maybe us to take on as a,
And the only other
volunteer effort.
thing, when I was talking with the DNRC folks today, and I feel like we're fairly full with public places to plant trees right now. They did get, the carbon reduction something
Yeah.
from the federal government. State of Montana got $5 million, it all has to be for planting trees. That money will come available, the applications will become, you can apply after the first of the year. The program's not up and running yet, but if there was you know, some kind of a big tree project in the next year or two that would fit the city of Red Lodge, I think that's gonna be
place to
easy
go.
money to get, and I think it's gonna come like projects where we don't do a thing. You can put everything in the grant, even if they said watering for 2 to 3 years. It's all gonna be paid for. They wanna get, I think, their time crunch, they gotta get to $5 million in the ground. So they're gonna,
So it's like a
it's
it's gonna be a pretty easy grant to get to plant trees. The problem is, we're running out of space to plant trees right now. But if somebody comes up with an idea,
buy more land, annex more land.
you know, they might have a park at that
Yeah,
Rocky Fork.
yeah. Anything else, Mike?
Nope.
Any questions for Mike?
Sounds good.
When do you sleep, like?
Yeah.
You sleep every night.
All right. We're at the next item is Park Representative Brief Round Robin.
I just wanna throw something
Emphasis
out.
on brief.
Are we gonna go
Yes,
down the list?
it'll be brief. Who has heard, I know most of you probably have, the goat farmers in Roberts who bring the goats and they will put them on property and they eat the weeds?
Mhm.
Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
We tried to show
We
it,
walked right by the house
we
once
tried
in a
to
while.
show it for 3 years.
Yeah.
Those are cool.
When we were done, we had more weeds than we started.
Really?
Yeah, I used to run a project like
And we
that.
had goats running all over town one time and they ate people's gardens and flowers.
Well, you gotta control it.
I was
You have to
just,
control the goats.
Van Dyke has a real weed problem, and I was just wondering if that, instead of spraying, if that might be a solution, but just throwing it out there.
I've had some pretty good luck with it in the past. Goats and sheep.
Yeah, I think, you know, I see them every fall herding them through my neighborhood, which is great, I love it. But I think people, you know, should definitely use them, so I just thought I'd throw it out there. I mean, 'cause you got the hillside, and, you know, the knapweed is just out of control there.
Okay.
Okay.
There you go.
For coal miners, I have a quick thing, it just came up today, there's a gal here in town that's kind of taken it on, it's a project to refurbish the wood benches that are around town that have like the class of 1941, she has not found anybody that's in charge. She talked to the city. Supposedly Lori Elliott got a grant and is getting them repainted or restained or sanded and then redone by Beartooth Industries. And she wanted to know if she could put a couple of them with different plaques up at coal miners near the soccer field. And I didn't see an issue with that, but supposedly she's running through those and then trying to get them back to kind of where they are. You know, there's one that sits out in front of Junction 7 and one in front of Wells Fargo, Bank of Red Lodge.
They're all over town.
Yeah. So, she said there is no owner of those benches. There is no committee, remnant alumni association or anything that did them, so I think it's a great thing, and, they may end up, I think there's one in the dog park too, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
There's several on the dog.
Yeah.
She's gonna get to that later, but I think she's working on them.
McGill Trail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just said I would mention it, that's all I had for coal miners.
Anybody else have anything to report from any of their representatives?
The ice rink is flooded, there's 3 inches of ice.
Oh, good, wow.
And it's early this year too. Al was saying they're flooding it earlier this year than normal.
Yeah, I think it was about the same last year, but didn't get actually usable until after the new year.
Which I'm concerned about that with the warm days we've had.
Yeah.
I just wanted to, who is supposed to be checking with Northwestern about it finishing up in Van Dyke?
In regards to
The fence and
fence, we're gonna put a gate in there.
oh, okay. The rut.
The path that they made to get in there.
That's gonna stay. They need access along that easement.
But they rutted it out.
Yeah, it's, if we go in there and smooth it out,
They're gonna run it
we're
down
gonna
again.
make more weeds.
It's an easement, huh, for the power company?
With that,
It's an easement
Yeah.
for the
yeah,
power
there's
company?
an easement along there.
Mary Dale, are you the city parks representative for Van Dyke? Can you talk to Teresa and get those volunteer hours that would have ended in June?
Oh, okay.
So any hours,
Yeah, I
weed
thought
pulling, no, I haven't seen them, but
Oh,
if you
okay.
could just remind her and get those to me.
She's working on a impact report, so they should be in
Yeah,
the
and this would
balance.
be, I'm just working on up through July 1st, so this is last year.
Right. I think that's what the impact report is also covering.
Yeah,
Okay.
and if you went in there and did some volunteer stuff, added in
Oh,
estimated.
I pick up cheatgrass, but I get my cheatgrass bouquet.
Every hour helps when we're going for grants.
Any other reports? No? Okay, we'll move on. We're into, future agenda items. We already talked about one, item for maybe the next, January's agenda, and that's the Tennis Court Improvement Committee's goals and objectives, so maybe we can add that to the agenda for next month. Anybody else have any other items?
I'd like to add just a discussion and possible decision about, how we're gonna approach Earth Day, Parks Cleanup, Arbor Day, for
Good.
2025.
Okay.
And I will come with kind of, I guess, what we've done in years past, from what I know. Last year looked, or this year looks
Yeah.
different than the
I
year
appreciate you
before.
bringing that up
Yeah.
and willing to bring that, that's good.
Yep.
We didn't need to have that discussion.
We also, I think, said last month that we were going to try to start a budget discussion,
Mhm.
right? Park priority, budgets, and that may fan out quicker than we know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important to get started. Again, not that far away to get it to the council.
I thought we were talking about February or March, were we? But we can.
Yeah, I think
We
February,
started,
March.
I think
yeah.
we were talking about that February, March for that.
Yeah. Might just be good to set some objectives for like prepping for those meetings.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. We're back to, citizens' comments on matters within the board's jurisdiction. Again, a 3-minute time limit for each comment. Anybody have a comment they'd like to make from you 3 citizens out there? No? All right.
I'll just mention, I think there's a renewed interest in the disc golf group. That kind of ebbs and flows, but there's, new energy around, disc golf in the community with the establishment of the Red Lodge course, the mountains, Coal Miners Park, the shaft, as we call it, is still undergoing considerable use all year long. And, I'm here tonight just to learn a little bit more about the process and looking at some potential improvements within that facility. So we've got a survey out right now within the disc golf community, see what they would like to see improved and just formalize it and
Tom,
try
are you
to
the-
understand the process you would like to see moving forward.
Are you like the point person for now?
Probably, I mean,
Okay.
as you know, so Brian was this for years and
Right.
he's done great work, but I think there's still some work to be done.
Is that part of the MOU for coal miners? Okay.
Yeah, I think the best, way to go about it is exactly what you're doing. Getting that survey of some of the addressed needs and then bringing it here, especially as we start looking at budgets, because that's something that will absolutely come into consideration. So public input is crucial when it comes to deciding what goes in and out.
And, I mean, we want to get the disc golf comments first and then come to you with park board concerns or ideas.
Yep.
And then these improvement committees that are starting to be formed, whether it's around the pool or the tennis courts, is that something you would like to see, or, I mean, and how formalized would you like to?
I think it just depends on how big you want to go. So again, like, the tennis courts, they're looking at a $400,000 project. If you want to go 400,000, yeah, I just think give it committees. If you're looking for small scale. Get carts, rental carts that you have for it, yeah.
Okay, any other comments?
So the only question I've always had is disc golf has an MOU. You don't really have, it's in the coal miners group of, but everybody else has to have liability insurance, and that's not really something your organization isn't formal. And so I don't know what that means. I guess that's a question for city. Is it fair to ask other groups to have liability policies?
You're bringing up.
And some not. And I'm not picking on golf. I'm saying to be standardized.
You're bringing up a really good point, because we have talked about in the past reviewing the MOUs that we have. And I think that's probably a good point. That's probably something we may want to start in the new year too. We'll have to review all of them at a meeting, but maybe review 1 or 2 at each meeting. Make sure that we do have some consistency and that if there is a need for identification for liability of the city, that we have, make sure that we have it included.
Yeah.
Maybe not every MOU needs that, but.
Yeah, I think that'd be a question for Dennison.
Yeah.
And in terms of MOUs, that's actually one thing that we have for land use and planning that we'll be looking at, all of our MOUs. And so it might be something where we can divvy out some to Parks Board that are park specific, but we might be creating some criteria and guidelines for what that process looks like. So again, basically that, do we need to have that liability insurance? Do we need to have, what are the dates? What are the, what's all of those pieces? So essentially creating a template, and then you guys can use that template to look at what's currently out there. It's okay, this needs updating, but this is good. This needs updating, et cetera.
Yeah.
So,
Does having the liability insurance determine whether or not we can give money, like the Parks Board can support that?
No,
No,
it's not, but I'll give you, so when you're an organization and you're creating events happening on park space, you're usually required to carry this. And I know there was, at one point, the city was gonna say, $2 million policy for liability, and
Pretty standard.
most organizations, no, I don't agree with that, I think of millions, but,
No, this is
But
done.
if you're going to have a group and you organize, so tennis and pickleball, and they're forming and they're creating their own events on park space, they will need to have, that'll have to be reviewed. The city attorney, do they need to form a group and be a nonprofit or whatever, and then have a liability policy?
Yeah.
Because we're not consistent.
Okay, all right.
I'm just curious, has the city explored the possibility of the city covering that? I mean, like a park and recreation
would be,
department, pardon?
I think with the disc golf, you probably would be, because you're no different than somebody in Rotary Park having a picnic.
Yeah.
You're just using the park.
It's just a drop-in use.
But if we do,
Yeah.
if we do a tournament,
Yeah, if it's
Yeah.
a tournament, then I think that,
Then, yeah, there's maybe,
there's some questions maybe need to look into.
okay, I'd like to explore that further.
Yeah.
Yep, okay. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Love it.
Thanks, Walter.
Mike, do you need this?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you needed it or not.
Right now, you are covered by like.
Oh, it's awesome.
Hey,
Mike.
Well, I think what happened is, you know what, the tag along,
Little League, soccer, but then there's other groups, and it's like, what are we doing?
But if it's just a drop-in, like, you know, it's like I'll meet you down for a transport.
But,
And we're gonna run tournaments, or we're going to, on the city's behalf, operate local tennis courts. I don't know, but it's unofficial, it's not official. I mean, do we have an MOU with them?
why, how are they different than?
You know,
and
the
reason is greatly gone.
They're probably not. And we've got the school district and the youth tennis courts.
I think the coaches did it well. They really did. And, right, but like,
Well, like, if you're gonna have an MOU.
I mean, this is what happens. Well, they, it's an electric. Yeah, it works really well.